rappers, they all look the same to him. They used to beg him not to egg him on Halloween. He told him holler back with the suede Pumas, dollar green. Nah, I mean, heat it up till the temperature tarball. Y'all just gawk like gargoyle.
What's up, baby? We got us some Nick Crowley. Can't go wrong with the big crow. YouTube's darkest videos 8. Let's get into it.
It was 2:46 p.m. when the ground began to shake.
Lock it on.
Oh, hell no.
For residents of Anagawa,
That's
Japan,
crazy.
Earthquakes were nothing new. But
I've never been in an earthquake, and I don't think I ever want to be.
this one was different.
Nah.
It carried with it a violence that none of the locals had ever felt before. And by the time the shaking had stopped, everyone in the city seemed to be left in a momentary state of shock.
I don't know, like seeing buildings shake during earthquakes, it just don't look real. They don't look sturdy at all. They look like they're made out of rubber, bro.
This was especially true for the nearly 160 Chinese workers and students that had recently moved to the area, with most having never experienced any earthquake, let alone one of this magnitude.
Yeah.
Of these workers were a tight-knit group of 20 women who had recently been hired as trainees at a company called Sato Susan, a company that sold fresh seafood. And having been at work at the time of the quake, they frantically ran out of the building and stood in the street desperately trying to figure out what to do next, unaware of the fact that the real horrors were still yet to come. In Japan, it's not just the earthquakes you have to worry about, but the tsunamis that often follow. And usually, the bigger the earthquake, the bigger the wave.
Ooh.
And given that Anagawa was right on the sea and Sato Susan was directly on the shoreline, these women were now standing directly in the path of an impending disaster.
Oh, nah.
Thankfully, their boss, Mitsudo Sato, was well aware of what was to come, and quickly he yelled to the women to seek higher ground. But given their unfamiliarity with the area, Sato knew that he would have to be the one to lead them there. The group readily listened, and
This sounds like the plot to a horror movie, bro. Like a disaster movie.
quickly followed Sato as he led them up a set of stairs on a nearby hill, where they eventually reached a shrine that overlooked Anagawa and the sea. It was the highest point in the area, and should keep them safe from what would likely be a massive influx of water. And sure enough, as they neared the top, Sato's fears were already coming true. As the sea had drastically retreated, it was now beginning to push forward, and things were only going to get worse from here.
I would be terrified of a tsunami, dude. Like, I've only ever been through an earthquake, a tornado, and a hurricane. But the thought of going through a tsunami terrifies me, bro.
But despite understanding this, it wasn't a deterrent for Sato, as once he deemed the altitude safe enough for this group of women, he then turned around and began to walk back down the hill towards the slowly flooding city.
What?
The girls yelled at him asking where he was going, which is when he revealed that down below in his home in Anagawa were his wife and his daughter,
Fair.
who were now directly in the path of this unfolding disaster, and he was going to save them. The girl screamed out
Good man.
to him, begging him not to go, as things had already become incredibly dangerous, but he didn't so much as turn his head as he stepped down onto the street and disappeared from their view. And it was at this time that one of those girls standing high atop the hill began to record.
Oh, nah. Who does this editing, bro? This editing is amazing. Shout out to My Heritage.
Free. Just use my link or scan the QR code.
Mr. Sato tsunami footage. I don't know, just hearing that girl talk on the loudspeaker like that while your entire block is getting flooded, bro, that's kind of creepy. Like, Ali, bro.
The footage shows that the shoreline was no more, as the water had inundated the entire area as it slowly crept its way deeper and deeper into the city streets. The women were understandably in a panic, trying to make sense of this ordeal that they were now given a front row seat to. And as they record, we can hear them desperately calling out for Sato. But at no point do we see him. We just know that he's down there, somewhere. And as the desperation in their pleas increases, so too does the fury of the water.
Look at that. And they just used to this. Like, they're just completely okay. Like, I mean, Japanese people are completely okay with the idea that you can get hit with an earthquake and then your car gets moved 3 city blocks down the road. Like, that's crazy. Damn. And they activated the siren too, bro. You kind of acted that a little too late, huh? Like, what? The city submerged and now you activate the siren?
They could only watch
You played that little girl talking on the speakerphone first.
as Anagawa as they knew it was completely eviscerated.
Just imagine getting trapped in that water, bro. Dude, that's gotta be terrible. Like, not being able to, like, I barely, like, when I go to the beach, bro, I ain't gonna lie, I don't like going anywhere higher than my chest. I like to be in control of my movements, right? Just imagine being swept away by that water, bro. Just hitting poles and stop signs and stuff while getting thrown at God knows how fast. Like, Jesus. Look at all of that stuff, bro.
And by this point, they realized that there was now essentially no hope for Sato.
Yeah.
It was at this time that the women realized that despite already being at a considerable height, it still might not be enough. And so they ran even higher up the hill, desperately trying to get out of the path of this water.
If she survives this, bro, I'm moving back immediately. I don't know what her situation was that made her come over here, but nah, gang. That was my sign from God himself.
And as they did so, they noticed something down below. Standing on a rooftop in the middle of this massive tsunami was Mitsudo Sato. The building that he stood on was once a full 2 stories off the ground, but was now just a few inches above the surface of the water.
Wow.
The women again call out to him, this time even more frantically.
How in the world did he even get there?
But at this point,
Cause look at him, he's just walking like he a JoJo stand, you know, just walking like a JoJo stand on a rooftop.
it was no use.
He's probably already accepted his fate.
And when the camera is taken off Sato for just a split second, we can hear just from the women's reaction the exact moment that he swept away.
I mean, I'm glad she didn't get that on camera, but like, golly, that's some terrible camera work.
The recording stops shortly after and restarts minutes later, revealing that the streets where the women had been standing just moments before were now fully underwater, and the buildings that once stood around them were now reduced to nothingness. In front of them was a sea of death.
Bro, Sato, bro.
And had Mitsudo Sato not led them up that hill, then all of these women would have certainly been a part of it.
It's sad, bro. His wife and kid.
The date was March 11th, 2011, a day where Japan had been hit by its most devastating earthquake ever, with it ringing in at a magnitude 9.0, which in turn caused the nation's worst ever tsunami, as that day, 19,759 people would lose their lives.
Holy shit.
With Mitsudo Sato being one of them.
Rest in peace to the OG, bro. He went back to go get his family and he didn't even hesitate, man. That's a real man right there, for real.
But against all odds, his wife and daughter were not part of that death toll.
God is good.
As it's been reported that they were later found alive and unharmed. The devastation that occurred that day is incomprehensible. And all the footage of this disaster could warrant a place in this video, especially the footage of Anagawa, as you can see what it looked like before, during,
Jesus.
and after.
I just can't one thing I just always think about whenever I see tsunami footage is I just think of the smell. What does it smell like, bro? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like it would be a disgusting, terrible smell, bro. All that seawater.
But what I found so
everywhere.
interesting about this was all throughout this disaster were stories like Sato's, a man who risked his life to save 20 women that he hardly knew, and a man who gave his life trying to save his family, walking directly into the path of the worst natural disaster in modern Japanese history.
Like, he went like a G, bro. Like, I could never, bro, man, I only could wish I could be like Sato.
All in an
real.
attempt to save the ones that he loved. And I honestly find it quite beautiful that afterwards, these women adamantly shared his story and made sure that the world forever remembered Misuro Sato as the hero that he was. And of those 160 Chinese migrants who worked in the area, it was later reported that not a single one of them perished, which speaks volumes about the people of Anagawa, who so readily put others' lives before their own.
For real.
Fire marshal is investigating a blaze in Georgetown. 2 people found dead inside the home, and so far it's not known
Man
how
in
the
the
fire started.
garage.
It was just past 5:30 a.m. on the 17th of February 2021 when residents of a small neighborhood in Georgetown, Ontario were woken by the sound of sirens blaring. One man frantically grabbed his cell phone and rushed outside to record the unfolding scene, where he was met with a horrific sight.
It's crazy that we're in the age where everybody just records stuff now. That's crazy.
His neighbor's home was fully engulfed in flames. It must have happened quickly, as by the time rescue workers even arrived on the scene, there was already little hope of saving the house, or any of its occupants.
Jesus.
It would take hours before that blaze was finally quelled, revealing the charred devastation inside, as firefighters would find the remains of 56-year-old Christina Rirak and 59-year-old Andrew Rirak within the home's garage. The cause of this fire was initially unknown, but quickly the situation was deemed suspicious when experts determined that the fire had started as a result of some sort of explosion that had happened within the garage where the couple's bodies were found. This was later confirmed by security footage obtained from a neighbor who lived across the street, capturing the moments when it suddenly ignited around 5:27 a.m.
Hell no.
There was clearly something off with this case, and things only became more sinister following the autopsies of Andrew and Christina, which revealed that they hadn't actually died in that fire, and instead, both of them had been stabbed to death.
Oh, hell no, bro. If they figure out who this is, put him under the jail.
Andrew also being badly beaten. This fire wasn't started to kill them. It was started to cover up their murder.
Evidence.
And it did a good job of it too, as the scene was now left completely destroyed, with very little evidence being left behind. But there was something else investigators thought to check. That's security footage. The camera had been facing the garage where all of this carnage seemed to have happened, and so they thought maybe if they looked back far enough, it could at the very least show what had led up to this brutal attack. And so they rewound that footage, going back hours and hours, during all of which the garage had remained perfectly still, until they got all the way back to 6:42 of the day prior, February 16th.
So nobody made any movements since yesterday?
The film showed the moments that the couple had arrived home together inside of Christina's car, which Andrew had been driving that night, as he pulled uneventfully into the garage. This was the last time this couple was seen alive on camera, which on its own is disturbing enough. But as it turns out, there was something far more unsettling about this footage.
It does look really creepy.
As it revealed the fact that Christina and Andrew weren't alone.
I thought I saw something. I see it. I seen it. Look. Right here. What is that? Yeah. Oh, nah. Was he waiting there the whole time?
The footage showed a tall figure, its features completely shrouded in darkness, almost as if it were a shadow, with this figure lying in wait out of sight on the side of the house, until right after Andrew pulls the car into the garage, when this person slips in behind them. It's impossible to say for sure if the couple noticed this person or not, but it appears that they likely didn't, as they both start to exit the vehicle, to which the figure then ducks down in an attempt to avoid detection.
That's crazy. Nah, bro. Nah, bro. I'm checking all corners. Nah.
Until the garage door begins to slowly close. Neither Christina or Andrew would make it out of that garage alive, as just seconds after this footage, they both would be brutally murdered by this unidentified person.
Never I did. Oh my God.
The footage is terrifying and speaks to that innate fear in most of us, the fear of being followed, of being watched, and attacked in the moments where we least expect it. It's paranoia-inducing, and made even more off-putting by the fact that this clearly seemed to be premeditated. Whoever this was knew their schedule and had been waiting for them to arrive home, in a place where they knew they wouldn't be seen. But by this point, their motivation was as unknown as their identity. Following the discovery of this footage, bits and pieces were released to the press in order to get the public's help in identifying this unknown assailant.
How in the hell are we supposed to identify that guy? It's like trying to identify the Loch Ness Monster.
It represented a rare instance of a killer being clearly caught on camera right before committing a crime. But that's also what made this case so frustrating, as despite the video capturing this person,
There's nothing you can really
none
do
of their
with that
features were
footage.
discernible at all.
Can't even tell what color they were.
Unsurprisingly, the footage didn't bring in any relevant leads, but it at the very least showed investigators that whoever this person was knew the couple, due to its obvious premeditation. Though when looking into both Andrew and Christina, it was clear that neither of them really had any enemies in their life, with the exception of one. Harrison Brown was a 27-year-old employee at a company called Rogue Transportations, of which Christina happened to be the vice president of operations, and during his time there, Harrison was known to be abrasive and combative, with Christina often having to be the one to reprimand him, leading to Harrison resenting her. It isn't clear how police were tipped off about this strained working relationship, but they had somehow grown suspicious enough of Harrison to pay his home a visit, and what they found inside showed that this resentment he had towards Christina had actually morphed into a twisted obsession.
Oh, hell no.
Inside, police found satellite images of the Rearx home.
Satellite? Nah, lock this nigga up immediately.
Along with the software on the man's computer and cell phone that showed that on the 12th of February, he had secretly attached a tracking device to Christina's car, and he had been tracking her movements for days, which is precisely how
Bro, stalking somebody is like the craziest thing you can do. Like, how do you bring yourself to actually literally just follow and obsess over somebody for that long of a period, like multiple days? You tracked a tracking device? Was it really that deep? Like, what did she say to you, gang? Like, what did she say to you to make you do all this?
he knew when she would be arriving home. And as if this revelation wasn't damning enough, they would also find a broken knife in his garage that contained trace amounts of Christina's blood. It was obvious what Harrison had done, and when confronted with this evidence, there was nothing more he could say other than the truth. So he admitted he had grown a hatred for Christina because of the way that she had treated him at work, and he decided that he needed to get his revenge.
That makes no sense.
That's when he purchased this tracking device and began obsessing over her movements, studying them before finding the perfect time and place to strike. And on February 16th, he waited outside the Rearx home and snuck into their garage before attacking and killing them both. After the assault, Harrison would leave the home, where he began to grow paranoid about being caught, and so he returned to the house the very next morning to start that fire, with the hopes being that the blaze would cover up his tracks. Though thankfully, this didn't work, and after pleading guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of arson, Harrison Brown would be sentenced to life in prison.
Firing squad. What the hell, bro? Feaster's dash cam. I ain't gonna lie, police work. Is that a dude standing right there? Hell nah. Already tweaking.
It's the eve of Thanksgiving, 2015. Police officer Patrick Feaster sits in his cruiser parked alongside the road in the town of Paradise, California, waiting for his first action of this uncharacteristically quiet night. His car was facing the direction of a well-known local cantina, which patrons were known to drive away from under the influence. And sure enough, as the clock approached midnight, the calmness around Feaster would be shattered by the sight of a car speeding out of the restaurant's parking lot.
Bro, honestly, drunk driving is one of the most irresponsible, ridiculous things you could ever do, bro. Like, real talk, if you actively choose to drink and drive, like, not even give yourself time to sober up before you... Yeah, no, you're a horrible person. I'm not gonna lie. Waste of space. Hold on, go back.
Car speeding out of the restaurant's parking lot.
Dang, I didn't even see
The car
him.
went unseen by Feaster's dashcam, but not by Feaster himself, as he took off, doing his best to catch up with the car that was now speeding down the road. And within a
This dash cam is doo-doo, bro.
few seconds, he does.
This is 2015.
As the car slowly comes into frame for the first time. Inside that vehicle was 26-year-old Andrew Thomas and his ex-wife, 23-year-old Darian Aaron. Andrew had been drinking heavily that night and was well over the legal limit, with his driving showing it.
Oh hell no, they doing the LOL Omega Lol pose, bro. Get them out of here.
As much as he failed to pull over once Feaster approached him, resulting in a police chase that would only end up lasting.
I'm not even sure what I'm looking at right now. Like, this is the most blurriest group of pixels I've ever seen.
Just a few seconds.
Okay, I can kind of.
All 20, roll over TC, Pearson,
Wow.
Black Olive.
Copy, roll over TC, east of Black Olive.
Hell nah, bro.
As Andrew would drive his car directly into a median, causing the SUV to flip over violently before coming to a halt on its side.
Did it fling their bodies out onto the ground? Like, why is
In that instant, Darian was ejected from the vehicle, being thrown straight through the windshield and landing onto the asphalt, where, despite still being alive, her injuries were likely unsurvivable. But Andrew, on the other hand, was still inside the vehicle, and he seemed to have been left relatively unharmed. As perhaps being boosted by adrenaline, he quickly tried to crawl his way out of the car in a desperate attempt to check on Darian, with Officer Feaster's dashcam capturing the entire ordeal.
Oh, nah, you can kind of make out how she's laid out, bro.
Though just as Andrew attempted to do so, we see Feaster step into the frame, where he suddenly draws his gun and, without saying a single word, fires 2 shots at Andrew, with one of the bullets appearing to strike him, causing his body to go limp as
What the hell?
he falls back into the car.
I hate drunk drivers too, but damn. What the hell, Feaster?
It happened in a literal instant, so fast that it's clear Feaster had most likely accidentally discharged his weapon, as there was no attempt at communication before the shot was fired, with
I was about to say accidentally.
Andrew clearly posing no risk to him, as both of his hands were being used to hoist himself up. From the footage, this all seems to be a horrible accident, and one that Feaster seemed to recognize right away, as he rushed up to the car, pointing his flashlight at the man that he had just shot, staring at him for over 10 seconds, trying to make sense of what he had just done, before he finally snaps out of it, and uses his radio to call for backup. Though this is when this already dark video starts to become much more disturbing.
What? What is wrong?
I've got an unresponsive female. I got a male in the car refusing to get out.
Oh, he's gonna lie?
When Feaster makes this call, he never mentions the shooting, and instead he states that the driver was refusing to get out of the vehicle. This is then followed by Feaster walking away from the man and pointing his flashlight to the ground, almost as if he was looking for something.
Looking for his shell casings.
Copy, give your cross on Black Olive.
He's looking for his shell casing so he can try to hide the proof that he shot the gun.
Pearson.
I know your little game, buddy.
Copy, Black Olive and Pearson.
With some theorizing that he was looking for his shell casing.
Exactly.
Though right then, another officer arrives on the scene and begins to survey the wreckage.
Just her? No, there's a male in the car refusing to get out.
Where, again, Feaster says that Andrew was refusing to get out of the car,
Like you didn't just body him seconds ago?
making no mention of the fact that he had just shot him. It's clear at this point what Feaster was trying to do. He was trying to cover up his accident. But this suddenly became more difficult when Andrew started to speak.
Okay, they got one. He's refusing to get out. Get out of the car, sir. You're not shot, sir. Get out of the car.
Andrew Thomas was still alive and had muttered to Feaster that he had been shot. But even to his face, Feaster denies it.
The gaslighting is crazy.
Shortly after, Andrew then tries to tell the other cop what had happened.
Sir, you can come out of the car. This car is still on, and I don't want you to get hurt.
And they're not even gonna believe him because he's drunk and he just crashed and his girl is on the ground sprawled out. This is crazy. What's wrong with this guy? What is wrong with Feaster?
Yeah, I was right there. I saw it.
You are not shot, nigga. Look, like, what are you talking about? I'm not shot.
Did you get shot at the cantina? Who shot you? The cop did not shoot you.
But understandably, this other cop wasn't believing him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like that's, yeah.
Surely, Feaster would have said something at this point. And so, the minutes start to pass. And after 5 full minutes, Feaster continues processing the scene like nothing had happened, with the other officer being left to theorize that Andrew must have been seriously injured.
Don't tell me Feaster, like, crashes out and tries to kill the cops.
And was likely in a state of shock, which is why he was making all of these strange claims about being shot.
He may be hurt in there. Yeah, I know he is. He's in shock at the very least.
From here, the footage cuts, and we're only left with the audio from that same officer's body cam, as he attempts to get more information from Andrew.
Sir, I need you to talk to me so I know you're okay. Sir, take a look at me. Did you bump your head?
But by this point, he had gone completely silent.
He died?
10 minutes later, the footage then cuts back on, this time to another officer's body cam, which shows that an ambulance had now finally arrived on the scene, with medics first directing their attention
Bro, Feaster needs to get put under the jail with that other guy.
to Darian, who was in the worst shape, as she would tragically be pronounced dead shortly after. But despite all of these first responders on the scene, none of them had any idea that the man inside that vehicle had just been shot, and shot by one of their colleagues. And in these moments, Andrew was slowly losing his life as each minute passed.
That's fucked up.
It would take 11 full minutes before Feaster finally confessed.
Sir, you hold this scene, Manny, with me. We're going over to the cantina to find out if this guy...
I wasn't even pointing at him. The gun could go off.
Saying that
Oh my god, hell no. Dude, I knew, see, I wasn't gonna make fun of bro when I first seen him, man, but you can't trust somebody whose double chin encompasses their entire neck, bro. You just can't.
he might have shot the man, but he wasn't sure.
He might have. Man, you blew him down. No, did he?
And immediately after saying this,
Oh my God, are you serious?
the recording is stopped,
They turned off. Wow.
and the footage comes to an
It's
end.
too late.
Sure enough, in that moment, Officer Patrick Feaster had in fact shot Andrew Thomas, with a bullet striking him directly in the neck. And the reason why he wasn't getting out of his vehicle was because that gunshot had left him fully paralyzed from the neck down.
What the fuck?
His condition was awful, and made worse by the length of time that it took for him to receive proper treatment. And despite fighting for weeks, Andrew Thomas would lose his life less than 1 month later due to that gunshot wound.
Feaster, you're done. Your time is done. You're gonna be feasting on this jail sentence.
Afterwards, Feaster admitted that he did fire his gun, but claimed that in the moment he wasn't actually sure if he had hit Andrew. But many found this hard to believe, as his gun clearly goes off while he's pointing it
You walked that man down, bro.
at Andrew, and he clearly gets
Like this was Red Dead Redemption or something. You walked him down. There's no question.
a good view of him immediately
You better be glad I'm not on your jury, bro. I would've, nah.
after the fact. Not to mention the fact that Andrew literally told him over and over again that he was shot. But for many, by far the most incriminating moment was when Feaster appeared to be looking for his shell casings.
Yeah.
And because of his actions, Officer Patrick Feaster would be found guilty of manslaughter and receive a prison sentence of 180 days.
What?
A decision that was heavily contested but
Boy, that just made my head hurt, bro.
ultimately upheld. And while no one is defending Andrew Thomas's decision to drink and drive that night,
Yeah, like, I don't feel bad for him for crashing and stuff. He did that to himself. There was no reason for Feaster to do any of that.
Feaster's use of deadly force and his blatant attempt at covering it up make this footage harrowing nonetheless.
Like, that's crazy. There are many who believe that Officer Feaster intentionally shot Andrew that day. It's difficult to explore this theory without being able to show the full footage. So I recommend looking up the case for yourself and drawing your own conclusion. Low-key, I might have to, bro.
A few moments later.
Never mind. I tried to look it up and I got hit with a whole bunch of pop-ups. I'm good. I might watch a whole video just dedicated to that. For real.
Do this for real, bro. I don't got no problem with giving back, man. I'm the only one out here with a show that's actually giving back.
Young Kesey gives back.
It's May 2013. 23-year-old Quamaine Wilson arrives at his local bank in Chicago, Illinois to deposit $20,000 cash, which he planned on giving out to groups of his most adoring fans.
Man, about to go get this $1,000 out for the fans, man. Really, I'm gonna take out $20,000, man. Just to show people, you feel me? I'm on a whole different level with this.
To this point, Quamaine had carved out a respectable following on his YouTube channel, where he acted in a series called The Nick Story.
Wow.
That's your mouth, and that's your ass, that's your life. I'm gonna take it myself and put it in my graveyard with the rest of them.
Along with posting music he made under the name Young QC.
Out her song, but not until she's. I know she will. I'm gonna get you.
Oh,
Based on his
Jesus.
viewership alone, his success was apparent, and he wasn't shy about showing off the wealth that he claimed to have accrued as a result of it, posting photos and videos of himself flaunting large amounts of cash across his social media pages.
Let me guess, a nigga hunted him down.
But this video was by far his most boastful yet, as he would take that $20,000 and throw it into the air for all of his fans to fight over. With Quamaine clearly relishing in the opportunity to show off his riches, despite the fact that behind
Yeah, nah, somebody's finna run him down
the
for that
scenes,
money.
things weren't quite as they seemed. The truth was, Quamaine had actually earned very little from his channel despite its viewership, with this being on account of his videos containing copywritten music, and the fact that he only had a dozen or so uploads. In fact, his social media flexing had started well before he even made his first video, as in reality, all of this money was coming straight from his mother, Yolanda
What?
Holmes. Having started a successful business in Chicago, Yolanda made a great living for herself and Quamaine.
Nah, bro.
And being her only son, Quamaine was given just about anything he could have asked for. She would buy him designer clothes, jewelry, and even the Mustang seen in this video. But for Quamaine, it never seemed to be enough. He wanted to achieve a life of fame and riches, and he used his mother's finances to sell the illusion that he already had, asking her again and again to purchase him things that could help him sell this dream. And
Like, for what reason, bro? Like, if you already are well off, you don't need to try to prove to people that you're well off. Like, that's literally nothing but ego. Yo, this is actually about to piss me off, dude. This is actually, you're gonna take your mother's hard work and just blow it away for brownie points on the internet to niggas who don't give a damn. Like, what? What are we talking about?
until one day, it
Oh
all
my
came
God.
crashing down when Yolanda would tragically lose her life. Just like that, Quamaine's entire support system had fallen out beneath his feet, leaving him without his mother and without the provider who was funding his entire life. But strangely, this didn't seem to stop his lavish online presence. In fact, his spending only seemed to increase after this.
Don't tell me, bro. If you're about to tell me that this man killed his mom and collected the life insurance, bro, I'm gonna tweak.
As this footage of him giving away money to fans actually took place after the death of his mother, which became extremely off-putting for law enforcement, as Yolanda hadn't simply passed away, and instead, she had been brutally murdered. Sometimes I hate when I'm right, bro. Quamain had learned something shortly before Yolanda's passing.
She had a crazy life insurance policy.
Not only were his mother's savings entirely willed to him, but she had also taken out 2 life insurance policies, in which he was the sole beneficiary. And despite Yolanda giving him anything that he could have asked for, it seemed that by this point, Quamain had simply grown tired of having to ask. And
this nigga is a bitch.
So, on September 2nd,
like real talk, bro, like you're actually just a bitch, bro.
2012, he would offer his friend Eugene Spencer $3,500 to kill his own mother. Eugene accepted the offer, and that night he would travel to the apartment of Yolanda Holmes
for just $35K
late at night, where he entered her room.
That's a horrible price to me, bro. I'm sorry. You're asking me to risk throwing away the rest of my life for just, what is that? That's 1 year of income? You're crazy. You're crazy.
And shot her multiple times as she slept. At the time, her boyfriend had been sleeping next to her, and despite jumping up and doing his best to fight off the attacker, Eugene would eventually beat him unconscious before fleeing the scene.
Damn. Eugene, don't get it mistaken, Eugene a bitch too.
Eugene would call Quamain immediately after the attack to tell him that the job was done, but rather than feeling any sort of guilt, Quamain instead had no emotion, and he simply stated, "Make sure the bitch is dead."
Nah, hell no. Yeah, nah, bro. This man is actually a psychopath, bro. Like, I don't do the clinical diagnosis, but that's insane.
And so, Eugene went back up to that unit, this time brandishing a knife, and repeatedly stabbed Yolanda until he was absolutely certain she was gone.
Where was the boyfriend?
And with
he was
that,
still unconscious?
Quamain Holmes was a rich man, and it only cost him the life of his own mother.
Look at this talentless ass nigga, bro. Killed your own mom to get her money because you can't make your own money because you ain't got no type of talent.
Moment, the crime had worked perfectly. The police were left with no concrete leads as to who might have killed Yolanda, and the public largely believed that it was her boyfriend, whom Eugene had knocked unconscious. But no one even thought to look at Quamain.
Look at this nigga. He really think he him.
And recognizing that he was in the clear,
this ugly ass nigga, bro.
His behavior grew brazen almost immediately.
Quamain Wilson lost his mother to gun violence on November 14th.
My mother, she was a neighborhood woman. A guy entered her home, and murdered her, just to steal.
As he went,
just to steal, you can't even talk to me straight, bro. It's because you a bitch. What the hell? Them braids pulling the rest of your thoughts, bro. You blinking like you off of that booger sugar.
Went on TV to talk about his mother's murder, where he peddled the theory to the public.
Nose take up 30% of your face mask, bro. This don't make no damn sense.
That this was some sort of botched robbery. All the while, he showed no emotion.
That nigga could smell what the Rock was cooking, bro.
He wouldn't even wait a full week before depositing the money, as he took out $90,000 within just the first few days.
Just to give it to some random niggas. Oh my god. Just to give it to random niggas he calls fans.
And immediately began showing it off to his followers. And in this footage where he gave away that $20,000, throwing it into the air as if it meant nothing to him, every cent of that had come from the death of his own mother, a death in which he was entirely responsible for. It would take over a full year for Quamain and Eugene to be caught, with police largely being tipped off by his online antics. And in the end, Eugene was given a 100-year prison sentence.
Bro, that's still too lenient, man. You need to throw that nigga off of a ledge into a shark pit of rocks with swimming sharks, bro.
While Quamain received 99 years. With his
you need to cut off his dreads and slap, man.
Legacy now permanently defined by his creation of one of YouTube's darkest videos.
And your music was ass too, bro. Dude, that just actually pissed me off, bro. Holy. Bro. Respect the people who take care of you, for real, bro. Shout out to Nick Crowley. Calling what Fesser did an accident without at least verbally mentioning the very real possibility that he did it intentionally was a huge mistake. Yeah, that was kind of a mistake, but I'm not even gonna be mad at you, bro, because it's still a good video, and you just want people to come to their own conclusions, bro. Still, it's shout out Nick Crowley, bro. Link in the description. this, yo, this damn near ruined my night, bro. I'm not gonna lie. That dude, oh my god.